Doctor Ed Picardi has dedicated his life to the medical healing ministry. He stopped by to share some sights and stories of a recent missionary trip.
Doing volunteer work in ministry has always been a big part of my practice throughout the years. My wife and I, in the past, we've done volunteer work in hospitals in Cambodia, in Vietnam, a number of hospitals in southern Africa, even over to Russia. So, and in fact, even locally, I would do, in the past, I've done volunteer work at the Pine Ridge Hospital and even up at Fort Meade, VA. So doing volunteer work has always been an integral part of my practice. Throughout the time there, we saw a lot of trauma, machete injuries, moped accidents, motor vehicle accidents. But the thing that was most compelling was, I think, a 4-year-old child who came in with the front half of his body completely burned with third-degree burns. In the United States, this child filled every criteria that there would be to transfer him to a burn unit, to a burn specialist. But there, we were the last place to go. It was either there or no. By all the criteria, the child should have died. But again, we did, again, with 100% of God's help, we were able to save this child and deal with these injuries, which even in a burn unit gave this child almost no chance of survival. And it was quite literally the entire front half of his body was completely burned, third degrees, smoke inhalation, his perineum, his hands, his legs. But with God's will, we used with what we had. And every day we took this child, the entire time I was there, we took this child back to the operating room every single day simply to change his dressings. And with the grace of God, we were able to keep the child alive. He still had a long way to go in referring back to the people that since I've been there, he's still in a critical condition, but he's still hanging in there. And again, that's much more God's will than our expertise. But of all the cases that I saw the premature infants about the size of a potato. But again, everybody was simply trying to do everything they can to help because there's nowhere to go. And he treating them both physically and spiritually keeps them going. And the people were infinitely appreciative. They have nothing, but even though they have nothing, I think they are so rich because they have family. And sadly, in this country, with these evil lawyers and all the family's been taken away from us. But these people knew that you can't rely on your government, that the family is the center of their culture, and it is through the strength of their belief in God and the strength of their family that these people survive. One thing that was so unique about me doing volunteer work here as opposed to the volunteer work that I've done in the past is the level of the spirituality that was involved. Each morning, the entire OR staff would meet with us and we would pray. And before every case, before the patient was put under anesthesia, we would also stop and we would have what they call a timeout where we would stop and we would pray. And I know that is something that I've done throughout my career, but I've done it under my breath or when I was at the scrub sink where I would always pray for God's help to guide me. Here, it was actually a formal part of the procedure that we formally pray and ask for God's guidance and God's help in helping the patient. And that really was quite moving, and it really added to the spirituality of the healing that we were doing. The very last day was very touching. The entire OR staff got together, and without me knowing what was going to happen, they all got together and sang to me a very familiar tone song, which hopefully you can play some of that. But it was very touching that the staff has such a strong belief in their spirituality, that this great gift to me of their spirituality, and them singing a song for me on the day that I left.
Tout-puissant, comme mon cœur considère tout l'univers, payé par ton pouvoir. Le ciel d'azur, les éclairs, le tonnerre, l'éclair matin ou les ombres du soir. De tout mon être, alors s'élève un chant. Dieu tout-puissant, que tu es grand, de tout mon être, alors s'élève un chant. Dieu tout-puissant, que tu es grand.
We've left out some of the very graphic pictures of the surgery and the dramatic cases that Dr. Picardi dealt with while he was there. But if you'd like to learn more, contact us. We'll be glad to help you get in touch with Dr. Picardi.